Many of you have heard me be a little disparaging when it comes to the millennials and the fact that I get a little bored when a 15-year-old gives me a business card and says CEO on it. And I keep thinking, like, really? But on the other hand, I have a great adoration for the mindset that the millennials have brought to us and giving us all that need to be more perennial type thinkers. So with me today is one of the younger of my tribe, and he is starting out in his career with his company, which I will let him tell you about. But it is for the purpose of all of you thinking about what does it take if you are young and you have a passion for something to actually do what it takes to get it moving.
My name is Miles Goeglein, and right now I'm going under the artist name of AChronic, and I've been producing and songwriting for the past 2 years or so. And right now I'm working on basically starting my brand as an artist and as a record label.
Okay, so I happen to love the story of where AChronic came from. So please tell everyone.
Well, when I was in high school, I'm actually just out of high school. I'm turning 19 years old. I just got back from Los Angeles, but that's
we'll talk
another
about
story.
that in a second. Yep.
Well, when I was in high school, I had a teacher who was kind of the hardest teacher that I had, but he was also one of the biggest influencers on pretty much everything that I did. We were in a classroom at one point, and he was really angry at me. And because I wasn't necessarily the best student in the regard of paying attention.
It happens. Go ahead.
And so basically along the lines of, he called me a chronic fuck up.
And one of the things that I want you to hear in what Miles just said. So here was a teacher who really created a lot of personal tension. But Miles, and I will say this, one of the things I've always appreciated about you, you can take a situation and garner from it, okay, this guy is really the hardest person I've ever had to deal with, and he's also someone who stretches me. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a very unique characteristic for someone who was as young as you were in high school.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, is that at first, like, him saying that, I think it kind of struck me as like, oh shit, like, okay, like, that's a lot to hear, but also at the same time, it was one of those things where he said that, and that was the turning point of like, fine, if that's what you think, then I'm going to prove you wrong every time.
Okay, and that's one of the beauties of youth. Wanting to prove someone wrong when they call you out on something. You know, this turned out beautifully. It gave you a brand. Now, tell everyone what your brand is all about.
Right now, my brand is basically about fighting against the system of just the hierarchy, basically, of the system.
But in the music industry.
Exactly.
We have it, yeah.
Basically, what I'm trying to do is everything that's going on right now about people pressing everyone down, I want to go against that.
And you're using electronic music in order to do that.
Yeah, I'm using it to communicate the aggression that my generation feels towards people pushing us down. And I want to basically show that we can stand together and we can fight back against that, and we can show them we are strong.
Right. And you should know, so this, a lot of times, Miles and I will get into really heated tension points because obviously, for those of you who follow my work in positive psychology, you know that I don't really go for the most aggressive flow. I'm not looking for the person who's being pressed down. And no. I actually know we can make life a lot easier than that. And that's what I teach people to do when it comes, how do you build your career? But at the beginning parts, that type of tension can actually build some really beautiful things. And that's why I never would stand in the way or say, oh no, you've got to keep a really positive. No, angst can be a very good friction for what you are trying to build. One of the things that I want you to have a conversation with, and I'll fill in my version of it, was you said that you're moving from LA, that when you were in high school, this teacher did something. What happened between high school and LA? What did you do?
It was basically a lot of isolation and in the studio. I just basically stayed in a recording studio.
But after you graduated high school, what did you do?
I moved right out to Los Angeles.
To do what?
To pursue my career in music production at a school.
At a school. So you really decided to take additional training.
Yep.
And I'll fill you in on the part that I care about. Again, if you follow my work, education is important to me. That yes, the experiences of life are incredible, but those that actually ground themselves, and I will say of my work that positive psychology was my attractor because it grounded positive thinking type statements with true science. And it gave people something to continually go back to. So being inspired and being naturally talented to do something is excellent. But when you then get the grounding, as you have done at Icon Collective, to be able to know what to push back on. Like you now really have a basis. So there was this point when Miles made a phone call to me and said, well, he didn't actually come out and say, I'm not going to go to college. What he did was go around in this little circle, and it was really kind of comical, the circle he was going in. And I finally said, so, are you trying to tell me that you want to go to a trade school and learn your profession instead of go to college? I think that's a really good idea. Because that's what you were doing. What you were doing was taking your inspired love for something, which has been music, for all of your growing up years, and you were building on the great classical education you already got out of an art school in high school, and you were going to add another piece of education to that so that you could then build. Is that a fair?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to do.
And I would say that for me, that's where millennials sometimes fall down right now. They want to buy into the spirit part, but naturally being young, you don't want to put the energy to it. I would challenge all of you to look around for those who actually put the energy and match it with technical knowledge at a level that actually makes you skilled at a level that other 19-year-olds in your field just aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I knew you would. So tell me, now that you're moving back to Denver, what's the company? What are you going to be? What's it going to look like?
Well, right now, I am actually just kind of staying a little bit underground about it for a little bit, just because I want to save up the money to really be able to launch the brand properly.
Okay.
Because right now the thing is that I've got the plan and I've got the music, I've got everything lined up, but it's more comes down to the money.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where it's like, that's what this whole industry revolves around.
Okay.
Is it's branding and it's how you present yourself. And what that comes back around is media.
Okay.
And so a lot of what I'm going to be doing this year is working about reinvesting in myself.
Okay.
And so that in 2018, I will have a really solid start just with it.
Okay, so you will be a DJ. How will the music come out?
Basically, I will be a DJ, yeah.
Okay.
What my goal is actually I've kind of been on the limb right now of kind of diving a little bit more into the pop scene a little bit too.
Okay.
Just because there's a lot of stuff to be done in the pop scene right now.
Okay.
There's just a lot of opportunity. So I'll probably dive into that on a separate.
So you will create a side hustle.
I will. A side hustle.
All right.
That's
And
exactly.
that is another part of the millennial generation building their companies differently, building their careers differently than those in my generation. The awareness of taking on multiple streams of ways to create your livelihood is really grounded in this generation, and it is something that those within my generation should continue to learn from, because it's one of the things that we forget in my experience. Now, do you consider yourself then an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say that. I think that's what every artist is.
Okay.
I think that's just in general what the whole artistry is, on the side, on the back end.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that is exactly what all of us are trying to do, is we're just businesses, and we
Okay.
are basically an
You
advertisement.
Inc.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're young, you're just out of technical training, you're getting started, you view yourself entrepreneurially. What keeps you up at night? What makes you afraid?
I mean, what doesn't?
Oh!
But that's okay, because the thing is that just because you're afraid of something doesn't mean I'm afraid to face it. Like,
Okay.
at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of scary things, because I don't necessarily know where everything's gonna go,
Okay.
and there is no guarantee in life.
Okay.
But what I will say is that I'm gonna work really hard to get there.
Okay.
And the thing is that that's what keeps me going.
Right.
Every single night, I mean, there is that constant fear of like, wow, in 5 years from now, this may be nothing, and this could literally be nothing. But the thing that keeps me like okay with that is the fact that I have the passion for the music, and it just makes me happy. I'm doing it because at the end of the day, it's what I want to do.
Right.
It's what makes me me, and I don't imagine any other way of living.
Perfect. And so he's touched on about everything, every single point that I try and teach anyone that I work with. Just because you're afraid of something doesn't mean you have to not be brave enough to try it. The worst thing that could happen, the worst pain you could ever really have is not the failure, but the pain of never having tried, even if what happened is that you failed, because you will never know, and you will be tormented by not that knowing. The other part, which is something that no matter what the age, it seems we always have to be corrected on, and it's, in 5 years, who knows what's going to happen? Honey, in 5 minutes, we don't know what's going to happen.
Very true.
And that's why it's so important to know as early as possible what brings you alive, begin using those talents in something that keeps you alive. The fact that it is there 5 years from now will honestly not matter, because all that will matter is that you walk that path, and you definitely will have learned a lot just from doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other part. So now we're 5 years down the road. Give me the greatest outcome 5 years from now.
Greatest outcome for me would be touring and a record label that I have many, many friends that I'm supporting off of. And that's the big thing about it.
And me, who he's supporting, just by the way. I mean, we gotta have it always.
Oh yeah, of course,
I mean,
of
really.
course. You gotta build each other up, and that's the big thing about it. And that's the biggest part that all of us stress to each other, is that you have to get a group. None of this is done alone. Nowadays, the thing is that I may be the face, but I can tell you right now, I have 5 other people that are right behind me that are doing it. And the thing is that I focus on the music, I focus on the brand, I focus on the image. They're focusing on the back end. Where am I marketing? Where am I getting played at? That kind of thing.
Right.
And so there's always a team behind it. Just because it's a face doesn't mean it's that person.
Right. So you're the face, you're the talent, but even at this point in your career, you have built a team of people who are feeding into it.
Yeah, and it's my friends. It's the people that are wanting to be those things. And it's one of those things where it's like...
They have a vested interest in your success.
Exactly. And I'll build them up, and they'll build me up. And so we just build each other up.
Cool. All right. I think that I can leave it from there, because through all of the work that I do, the thing that tends to matter the most, and the thing that matters the most to success, no matter what generation you are in, is the recognition that people matter. That as you bring your strengths alive, as you come alive because of the work you do, you must always remember it is who you surround yourself with that determines whether or not your life is really a success. And I have the pleasure to have you as part of my team.
Oh, I have the pleasure of you.
Thank you.